Hello everyone. Today we will speak about the collective unconscious breaking point. Let us start with some essential questions. What is the political doing good for, seen in a general way? How do politicians lead their people, seen in a general way? What do you think about politicians in a very general way? How do you see the governance in general? Facts about political communications are: the people on governance level of Western politics show us that most politicians are blubbering, cheating and lying terrible by hook or by crook. Is political communication good for the politicians themselves? Or is it for the people? In every serious concern, I must ask you, do you want to know the truth? Today we know that the Western Alliance has started many wars for decades, and they have only justified them with lies. This alliance has killed many millions of people around the globe for decades and destroyed entire countries who became insanely rich through wars. Does anybody have questions? Who asks today for answers? Facts have been and still are distorted, exaggerated, dramatized, converted into the opposite, etc. Why do people have to be overwhelmed with uncountable, uncontrollable information from exaggerating mass media sources of all kinds? Do you critically question what you see and hear in the media? A shudder of panic and mass extinction, etc. were presented from the propaganda machinery. It looked and looks today like a perfect Armageddon story, repeated daily throughout the worldwide well-prepared media machinery. Greetings from Hollywood, the computer game industry and the weapons of mass destruction. And today the Western media present us a fake war story, hiding their own hell-like dirty games for 30 years. By the way, was there ever a man on the moon? Do you ask questions, or do you put your head in the sand? Do you want to learn, at least today, the true face of governance? Or better, do you want to see the true face of some evil titans? 50 years ago it was said the police are our friends and helpers. Politicians and other authorities pretend that they say the truth because they want to believe in their advices and strengthen their positions with media influences. The truth is that all lies, exaggerations, pretensions, illusions and beliefs don't necessarily have anything to do with the truth. This is the lesson for you. What do you think about this kind of truth? Today another game started. A war has broken out with gigantic lies from the Western world. The war code has been known since the Vietnam War and even since 1948. Why must authorities always keep people in fears? And why do they present us any kind of messages as truth? Let us have a short look back to some centuries with some keywords. There was the Opium War, Great Britain, China-French War, Afghanistan War, Vietnam War, Iraq Wars, state crimes, etc., etc., etc. They all are based on cheating and lies for exploitation of countries and for robbery, for example, by the Spanish crown for 500 years, from many other Western countries too. All these and similar acts like commercial wars and ethics wars will be epigenetically, unconsciously repeated until atonement. What are wars good for? They frighten, subjugate, and impoverish the people, empower the authorities, and alienate them from their people. We must also mention the forced total subjugation of the natives worldwide, all-around robbery, exterminations, devastations, perverse murders, and the most outrageous enslavement with endless human suffering. And if this is not perverse enough, remember you how innumerable humans suffered from religions, chopping off all body parts, abuse, total subjugation of the people, all-round robbery and hate for human life. Everywhere are terrible nests of serpents for centuries and millennia. What do you conclude now? Wars were made in the name of Jesus Christ, and the Christian churches from the 4th till the 21st century in many countries worldwide. Unimaginable suffering for centuries and millennia, also by religious rulers. Are these acts of love, understanding, and respect for genuine human evolution? It seems to me the entire world is very sick and must be rebuilt, fundamentally. Otherwise, there will never be peace on this planet. Over the centuries, Europe became insanely rich with criminal and evil acts. We must add all the African dramas made by Europeans and Americans for 500 years. How many millions of Aborigines have been robbed, enslaved, slaughtered and killed? The drama in Latin America are another shameless American-European drama. Where is the robbed wealth now? And finally, the US reached world power. How exactly? Do you know the truth about the matters we present here? All humans are epigenetically forced by their unsolved unconscious. In simplified words, humanity repeats this mess until the humans clean it up themselves. Today, Western governments persist on their rights, are not willing to negotiate, ignore calls for peace, order sanctions against others, and threaten with even harder measures. Who are the arsonists? Do you understand the question? That's all what governors can, namely to persist on their right, to ignore, to order, to provoke, and to threaten wherever and anyhow only for their own sake. And they understand themselves to be the chosen. Chosen? What for? Is this kind of leading the people constructive and positive or future-oriented? The history books are full of atrocities of all kinds from all governmental institutions, including religions, the economy, science, and education. Nowadays, almost everything goes similarly in digital systems with algorithms. Always the already mighty people become even mightier. Can you distinguish between the truth and the fake? The problem humanity has today is the need to turn to its inner human being, its soul, and its mind for worldwide reconciliation. Today, the insanely rich people, the government, the military, and other industries, the religions, the centuries-old elites, and the titans worldwide have taken and stored enormous sums of money Where is all this money hidden? We could use it for a new evolutionary, holistic and spiritual public education for the 8 billion mentally, preponderantly poor people. From Spain to Africa, to Europe, to Switzerland and the world around the globe, public education is still poor in all matters of mental inner development. The world today nurtures hyper-narcissism instead of archetypes of the soul. What did you learn at school for life? For decades, I explored the systems of public education around the globe. I am deeply shocked about all the lies in education, the misery, the collective subjugation, the dirty mass media, the brainwashing and the propaganda behind of all educational systems. The US contributed enormously to these horrors and suffering. Why aren't we allowed to really think, to question, to reason and to learn? It is breathtaking, shocking how the modern human species around the globe remains poor in mind, soul and human value. And nobody asks questions. Said in a psychological way, all humans are in extreme inner stress with 1,000 fears. It seems there are only hypocrites, cowards, narcissists and mentally deformed and false people in all systems on this planet. It is your planet. You decide what you want to do with all the human visitors. Who wants to bound humanity in fear? It is even much worse. The processes of dehumanization already have highly destroyed genuine human evolution worldwide. The power institutions have created a self-alienated species, transparent citizens, numbers, to control them always and everywhere. The government and the mighty titans purposely design to hold the people stupid. They want the development of the 22 mental functions as low as possible, with poorest thinking capacities and bounding fears. All human species, especially those in power positions, must transform themselves for a balanced, beneficial life for all. According to my observations from Andalusia up to the US, to the UK, Africa, to the European states, including China, all the masses of people, including people of the state administration and people of any religion, are living their life with only 2 to 4 poor mental functions. Why shall we only live with faith and belief, norms and ideals, pleasure and fears? Many authorities have the century-old book about how to subjugate the people. And governments' spokespersons continue to babble on the statistics, fool millions, and today billions of people with their century-old manual. Do you recognize the real goal they have in their manual? In another way, we observe the poorer the mental capacity of the people, the more they are trapped in a delusional narcissism, and the easier the rulers to reign, steal and exploit. Governance has become worldwide on many places totally perverse institutions. People are not allowed to ask questions. People must think only straight on. To obey is the absolute duty. It seems for 1,000 years or more, nothing changed in the ways of control and submission. Perverse punishments show us that the state of the mind and soul of the rulers, the leaders, the holders of ministries, and the politicians in general. For most governments, there is only one way forward, not left, not right, but straight with narrow blinkers. This can never create a collective human evolution, but always wars. Do politicians and governors in general know that we all have 50 ways of thinking and questioning capacities? Politicians, governors, and all use only one way of thinking. I do what I want. Can you see that this leads directly down to the hell? Governance itself is in many state offices and their back offices trapped in delusional patterns. They all have no insight into the inner call to become a fulfilled human. Isn't it obvious that governance is malformed and unable to lead the people? The biggest error of communism since centuries was and still is to ignore that each human must learn to become responsible for his inner genuine development and the nurturing of his individual rich mind, the mental capacities. Isms of all colors do not have an archetypal understanding of inner development and fulfillment. For them, only one small ideal line is right, to follow, to believe, and to obey 100%. Where does that lead humanity? In the nowhere, where humans lose their genuine potentials. Do you know your inner potentials? I advise all representatives and leaders to explore, nurture and develop the psyche, the minds and soul of themselves and of their people. Anything else is a delusion, as it ignores the genuine archetypal human development. In the European politics, parliaments, what are the seat holders preponderantly good for? Do they propose constructive goals for a good future on this earth? The status quo of the mind of the masses and of many governments and politicians are ready for another war to slaughter all others in all ways. That could kill billions of humans. Do you know that? Do you also want to play in this killing party? The unsolved collective unconscious has reached the point of global explosion. How stupid and short-sighted are the politicians that play cynically with the fire? Who are the arsonists for centuries and today? They have always been carved from the same wood. Sad is that the entire global youth today is trapped in delusion and stupidity from brainwashing. They are unable to ask questions, to think deeper into the complex matters of their life, and to explore their mind and soul. Do you want to find a deeper meaning of life and genuine fulfillment? People have superficial understanding of the meaning of self-identity, the self, and self-knowledge. They only look at uncountable selfies on their mobile. Who knows something about the inner mirror which shows the truth? Have you heard that each human must explore, nurture and develop himself in many ways and directions during the entire lifespan? Back to the governance and the world of politics in general. We focus on Germany, Switzerland, Austria, which represent much of the entire political world. I do also choose this approach as I was born in Switzerland lived, studied and worked there for 40 years. Key impressions about these countries are politicians have no genuine self-identity, no contemplation, no so are totally rigid-minded, are inflated, incompetent, have no inner sovereignty, no flexibility, no genuine learning, no wisdom, are cynical and have no relevant expertise knowledge. They are interested in their fixed mind and not in their mission for the people. Who cares? Most people are submissive. Most people are primitive, dull, and archaic. People have no archetypal inner development. Is it their fault? Without inner development, life directs their course in circles of endless, poor repetition. In the past, I very often observed people. Subconsciously, I did not like most of these people. It always seemed to me that they lie, that they are false, superficial or artificial or undeveloped, cold in their heart, and in general not good-hearted people. On the internet I observed mostly and especially political people and authorities in general. I have especially discovered their suppressed inner life, their narcissism in their eyes. What do you see in the eyes of people? People are not simply nice. Many people are false, superficial, machinating, others sad or lost and helpless in their soul. Everywhere there are show-off people, boastful and dishonest people. Many are very poor in their soul and mind. Practically, most people have no genuine self-knowledge. They don't know that they have 22 mental functions that are to be developed. I assume that most people in the past and today do not know what for they are on this planet. My book, Architecture of the Mind, clarifies and can guide you and all humans. Religious megalomania stifles inner evolution. This is all about obedience. Do you know the reason you are on earth? Why does authorities hate the people, especially those who don't believe everything blindly? At the same time, now the Third World War is brewing. The Western political actors show total cynical attitudes toward Russia and China. Now people worldwide fear war. What is this war psychosis good for? And now, as if this was planned, the war between the titans put the entire humanity into another psychosis. It seems politicians are acting for the other hidden purposes. UK, US, NATO, and Europe blindly follow their own madness. But the problem of the Western side is a perverse religious problem, already 3,000 years old. I was searching for wisdom in the eyes of the warmongers and discovered hate for life. Is there any wisdom in Europe and in the US? The West will accept up to 300 and 500 million migrants, using them for global war and cheap workforce. The political actors in Germany, Italy, France, Switzerland, Austria, Poland and all other European countries are void of wisdom, void of the ability to negotiate, void of respect for the concerns of Russia, China and other countries. Why can't we look for real peace? Governance has only one tool: to sanction, to order, and if necessary, menace the people with World War III. Some say we do not negotiate anything. That is the world of archaic men since millennia. It seems nobody wants to see how inefficient yet destructive this attitude is. I was searching everywhere in Europe to find leaders with genuine character, leaders with foresight, leaders with a healthy mind and soul. I could not find one leader with such a characteristic in Europe and the US. How perverted are rulers to keep a journalist in maximum security prison for years, to break him assault, to decompose his mind and soul, even though he only uncovered the truth. This is perverse. This is sick. This is the Western mendacity. I must say, apart from positive examples, politicians and governors are the worst species on this planet. The worst evildoer for centuries and continuously since the end of the Second World War and continuously today is the Western megalomania. Is this method a relic from the Middle Age? Such rulers, leaders and state presidents are poor in mind and soul. They have no rights to lead humanity. I recommend authorities to hold back from middle-age attitudes. Observing the many arguments from all sides and especially the communications from the Western side towards Russia, it shows an archaic world not better than the world 7,000 years ago, including the dark religion. To the authorities today, I ask you, set the sign for a new world. Liberate Assange now, put him under house arrest if you must. Look in your own evil face. You will realize you have billions in debt in your soul. Rulers killed endless millions of people, destroyed their lives and entire countries. Why nothing essential has changed? From my academic career, I learned not one of the Western leaders I would hand out an academic leadership diploma with a right to lead. So many authorities have no spirit, no soul, but much primitive, one-dimensional mind, an incredible evolutionary spiritual loss. What's about the global threats of our collapsing ecosystems? The Western world of governance, NATO included, has not understood that the world has 18 immense global threats to manage so as to lose all the ecosystems for humanity within a century. The US is very small, with 320 million citizens. Estimated 40% are not even native and unwilling or not allowed to be American. The rest of the world population, an estimated nearly 8 billion people, can easily suffocate all Western oppressors since centuries, Europeans included. What would happen if 1 billion of Chinese people walked to Europe? If another 1 billion Indians walked to America? If a further 1 billion people annihilate the white people? If another billion of people in Latin America wipe out the white race? The Western rulers in the US, in the UK, in Europe have a very narrow mind. They are rigid like stubborn kids. They are unwilling to see into their own inner mirror, like the priests and authorities in general too. They have a very childish behavior in negotiations and a self-presentation towards the world population that is genuinely primitive. They are driven by a sickening narcissism that poisons the entire world. They only want 100% believers and followers. What is their education good for? All these archaic rulers and their servants must be replaced by a new generation of leaders with a healthy pre- and postnatal biography. They must develop all their capacities to love, to care, to protect humanity on this planet. They need high learning abilities for the past and essential potential today for conflict resolutions and peace all over. To you, all the rulers, do you know that you repeat the past and nothing else for millennia? What for? Is it worth losing your friends, your own kids, your partner, your wife, your beloved ones, your own inner mission for the archetypal processes of the soul? Since 1948 until today, the world experienced many wars triggered, managed from the Western world, US and NATO. Not one war was legitimated. Was it worth all the wars and the killing of millions of people after World War II up to today, including the genocide of the Palestinian people committed by the Western coalitions and also have provoked for years the actual conflict with Ukraine? I have here the Western bombing list. To give simply some keywords: Korea, Cuba, Guatemala, Libya, Bosnia, Yugoslavia, Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq, Somalia, at the sanctions from US. How many leaders have they killed? How many countries have become submissive? How many subject dictate nations? How many states have been threatened from US? Much more about this insanity you'll find in my book, Politics. The biggest threat to the world was and is today the USA and NATO. Another threat is the blinded, delusional and primitive human. They are all judges without thinking, reflecting, questioning and reasoning first. Billions of people are lazy, ignorant, arrogant, opinionated, crawler and blinded. In front of women, many are excited about the icy queen and about the men. The truth is, they all are corroded in mind and soul. To the people I can say, go to war, enjoy the death. Feel excited with all the torn corpses, the blood and the legs and heads lying around and the meaningless, stupid arrows for the devil, the many titans. A sea of blood everywhere stimulates exciting orgasms, and now run for war. Killing another soldier with knife or a gun or a tank, the man calls the enemy with family and partner and friends and so. All lose their future with pain in the soul. Is this the US politics with triggering wars and provoking wars? Pathetic creatures are so many around, just for the sake of stupidity and for some titans. The Western leaders of all sorts think they have power, but they do not have any bit of power. They are simply epigenetically forced to repeat the past of 7,000 and more years. What for? For 50 years now, I endlessly studied to understand the global mess in all systems. For 50 years, I studied how we could change the world for archetypal development. My recommendation to reset the world for peace. I recommend dissolving the European Union, going back and retreat into independent single nations, with provinces of 80% independence from central government, and to restart at zero a new era with new, genuine rules for Europe and also for the world. Additionally, all public education must be rebuilt to enable people for a deeper meaning of life, to become a strong and holistically balanced person. Public education must be rebuilt in all encompassing genuine human ways with lifelong programs. That is the only way to create peace on earth. All murder states, including US and many European countries, must go through a catharsis and a process of forgiveness and reconciliation for all their atrocities and lies worldwide since centuries up to today. Many horrifying rulers must ask their own people for forgiveness. All religions are trapped in the same structural principles of exploitation and submission. They also must transform themselves and ask their believer for forgiveness. Best would be to start right now. All armies go back into their barracks. And then we start creating a new architecture for global peace and balance. Either the rulers and the people start to learn now, or one day the psychical spiritual evolution of humanity leads to its end. Keep in mind, the entire global mess started with a very malformed mind thousands of years ago. Today everything is rotten, but perfections and prepared for its doom. A Swiss proverb, "You are bitten by monkeys." Think about and talk to me before it is too late. It seems that humanity and governments are unaware of how close they are to the brink, the self-made creeping Armageddon. You are already in the activated, highly alarming zone. Humanity stays at the point of no return through the rigid, narrow, stubborn, malnurtured, disfigured, soulless, inflexible, dull and malformed mind. I would give some advice to the blended Western rulers. I strongly recommend to all parties in the Western world now to be 100% silent, not to take any action that can set the world on fire. Better we talk for a roadmap that leads out of the mess within 10 years. Thousands of years ago, someone invented Abraham to subdue the people. Since then, warmongers repeatedly waged the worst wars in human history until today. That's pure epigenetics. There are some people that have only one purpose, and that is deicide, means to kill God and his creation. I studied education with all the context and much more about humanity for 50 years, with a special focus about the archetypes of the soul and the genuine fulfillment of humanity. 2000 years ago, the world got from a messenger the roadmap towards fulfillment. The mission failed very quickly. Today again, humanity receives the modern roadmap from the same messenger. In the same context today, I request you again, enable me the space and the resources so I can start with you the program of the archetypal reset of humanity. I will teach you, the people, the experts, the leaders and the authorities to cleanse humanity for peace and for the path towards fulfillment. Be aware, nobody enters the paradise for free. At best, I may need around 10 years of active performance capacity. In the worst case, I send you all on an icy planet for 200,000 years. This is neither a joke nor a bluff. Unfortunately, I cannot walk over the surface of the sea. I cannot transform water into wine. In the best case, I forgive you all. But this is not for free. You need to prove that you deserve it. In the context of the actual conflict, Ukraine, US and the NATO, I offer you, together with the 18 global threats and the archetypal reset, concepts and strategies to reshape the world. You are welcome to talk to me for appropriate measures. The messenger called also the RC, perfectly known from the Swiss people. My journey was 50 years of riding in hell, going through the desert alone. I scream at the universe, bloody hell. I really wasn't looking for my journey. Dr. Eduard Schellhammer, born in Luzern, Switzerland.